want to talk just a moment about the way that I say game titles on Famidaily. When it comes to how Japanese people say the numeral in a game title, it can get a little bit murky. Sometimes it is just the Japanese number, but an awful lot of the time they prefer to use the English number. So for that reason, when I encounter a numeral, usually in a sequel, I just say the number in English. In most cases it's correct, and it cuts down on confusion. That is not the case for Dai-2-Ji Super Robot Taisen. Dai-2-Ji is a Japanese phrase, so there it goes. Obviously, this is the second Super Robot Taisen game, so where's the first? Well, that one was on the Game Boy. It was a very simple strategy game that mashed up a few popular giant robot series and had players guide them in battle. There was really nothing to the game other than a few scenarios, but Super Robot Taisen did extremely well for a Game Boy game, selling almost 200,000 copies. And when it came time for a sequel, developer Winkysoft came up with an idea. A brilliant idea. A brilliant, terrible idea. An idea that would have consequences that nobody in 1991 could have possibly conceived. They added a story. It was a story that took the big moments from the three major franchises that they pulled the characters in the game from, shoved them all into a blender with an original character and villain for the final boss, and even went as far as to insert those story events into the battles themselves. The plot of the game is that a scientist discovers that the Earth is under imminent threat from outer space, and realizing that mankind had no chance against the invaders, he decided to unite the world by force. And of course, as one of those super geniuses, he built an army of giant robots and personally battled with them. Now only a handful of resistance fighters remain, all rallying around the flagship White Base. These rebels against the New World Order come from three franchises: Gundam, Mazinger Z, and Getter Robo. Dai-2-Ji Super Robot Taisen consists of 26 very heavily scripted scenarios. Most of the time your objective is to wipe out all of the enemies or a particular unit, but there are also things like defend a point for a certain amount of time, or just exit the map before time runs out. You'll have events and long conversations that occur mid-battle that change some aspects of the scenario, which is how you know that this is a real Super Robot Taisen game. On every turn you move all of your units, and when you put the cursor over one and hit A, you'll get this menu, where you can choose to move, view their stats, use a special ability if they have one, transform into an alternate mode if the robot has that, or attack targets. Naturally, you can move and then attack afterwards, but attacking always ends that robot's actions for the turn. If you choose to attack, you'll have a few different moves to choose from. You'll see the accuracy and range on the right, and its effectiveness in different situations at the bottom. And when you do fight, you get this little close-up of the battle as your robot's theme music plays. They're actually pretty good renditions of the theme songs, but the songs have long introductions before you get to the melody, and usually the fight will be over before you get to the good part. In combat, the attacker always shoots first, and then the defender gets a chance to counterattack. If the attacker's speed is at least twice as high as the defender's, then they'll get a second attack after that. If you destroy an enemy unit, then you get some experience and money. Only the unit that does the killing blow gets the experience and potentially leveling up. That does make it difficult for the support units, since you'll often need them moving around to help others. One of your early robots has a healing ability instead of an attack as well, and you're going to want to have her use it just about constantly. The other way to repair your robots is to have them board a battleship. Every turn that they end inside the ship, they recover a bit of health. And you can launch as many robots out of the ship as you like, as long as the battleship hasn't yet moved that turn. The money that you get from enemies can be spent at stores that are hidden on the maps. You can buy recovery items or permanent upgrades. There aren't any stores in the first two scenarios though, so I didn't see one. Once you've done everything you want to do on your turn, just move to an empty square, bring up the menu, and you can choose to end the turn. This is also where you go to save your progress to one of the 3 save slots on the cartridge. And that's really all there is to the game. When it comes to the combat, it's very basic. Early on, you really don't have access to a lot of skills or special transformation abilities on the robots. The early missions have you rescuing someone to help you grow your squad. And even in this early game, things can become a bit complex. Like in the second scenario, this woman will join your forces if you can avoid killing her for 3 turns. Dai-2-Ji Super Robot Taisen was clearly a labor of love, throwing in everything that fans would want to see from a strategy game based on these popular franchises. And it bombed. It's 1991, no one wants Famicom games anymore. The game sold less than 75,000 copies. But Winkysoft didn't give up on it. They felt like they had a strong idea here and a real chance for a franchise that had legs. Bon Presto gave them another chance, and they made Dai-2-Ji Super Robot Taisen for the Super Famicom. And that one also didn't do well. But that was because Bon Presto didn't make enough copies. 6 months after the release of Dai-2-Ji Super Robot Taisen, used copies were going for over twice the game's retail price. And then from there, the franchise ballooned out of control. There are 48 unique main entries in the series. That's not counting the multiple re-releases for many of the games, except for a couple where in the re-release they completely rewrote the game. There are literally dozens of spin-off series, but very few of the games got released outside of Japan due to the complexities of licensing, mainly the games where they just didn't use any licensed characters. Although, at the time of this recording, the 30th anniversary game has just become the first Super Robot Taisen game to be released outside of Japan with all of its licensed robots intact. And I still haven't played it because I make daily videos about Famicom games. Getting back to Dai-2-Ji Super Robot Taisen, once the series took off, it became a popular choice for remakes because it was the first game in the storyline. It was radically re-envisioned for the Game Boy, adding a ton of new features and new robots, then returned to something resembling its original form in a PlayStation remake. And if you want the real prize, a re-release of Dai-2-Ji Super Robot Taisen for the Game Boy Advance is one of the holy grails for Japanese collectors, as it was only given out as a prize in a contest. 2,000 copies were made, and it's typically the last one that people need to complete their Famicom mini-sets. I feel kind of silly making a video this long about a game this simple, but Dai-2-Ji Super Robot Taisen is a very important game that might go overlooked. It might not have been the success, but this is the moment that Super Robot Taisen becomes Super Robot Taisen. 90% of what makes the series endure for the next 3 decades starts here. Now, would I recommend it as an entry point to the series? Probably not. It's a good 8-bit strategy game, but there's been a lot of quality of life improvements since then. My recommendation is to find a game that happens to have giant robots from something you already like, and then just go with it. But if you really did want to go back to the beginning, a lot of the cool things from later games are here. And this is one of the best strategy games on the Famicom.